even in those early days, was his belief that apart from attaining political independence, true liberation would only be realized by Africa if Africa could feed herself. And those who write about him recognize that one of his early obsessions was the greening of the Sahara Desert, even in those early days. And if you look at some of the activities that he initiated in those early days, the imagination to create a university that would focus on agriculture and technology, it was in many ways an appreciation of the fact that Africa could only realize her potential if she could feed her people. And after the attainment of political independence by many countries in Africa, the realization that Africa had a single backbone as agriculture is one that was not lost on all the leaders of the day. In fact, if you take time and read some of the thoughts of the early political leaders of the day in Africa, agriculture was always given her pride of place. Which begs the question, why is it that over 50 years after independence, Africa cannot feed herself? And one need not go through all the countries, but one is starkly reminded that even as we speak today, there are muted talks about drought and therefore the inability of the Ethiopians to feed themselves. There is talk about the South Sudanese inability to feed themselves. The Central African Republicans cannot feed themselves. The Nigerians make do without tomatoes, which they love so very much, because they cannot produce enough. We in this country cannot produce enough maize. The Malawians, whom we celebrated several years ago, are now grappling with drought. And the Angolans will have the same story as will the Mozambicans, begging the question, why is it that we appear to diagnose the disease of Africa, and yet when we apply a new antidote, a new wound appears? These are questions that I believe worry you who are in this field on a daily basis. You who are constantly engaging with new ideas and asking yourself the difficult questions. If you allow me a little room for maneuver, I will remember nostalgically my much younger days in my rural village, when the levels of nutrition, in my view, was a lot better on average than it is today. People could walk to the lake and buy fish, so they took care of their protein in those days. People could till their kitchen gardens, and in many ways they could satisfy their domestic needs. People could till their land without the use of fertilizer, and in many ways they could get yields that would satisfy them and something to take to the market to cater for their other needs. But on average today, if you visit many rural African villages, whether those villages are in Eritrea or in Tanzania or in Kenya or in Chad or the Democratic Republic of Congo, there is a sense in which we have become prisoners of a new way of doing things. Every evening, little children are dispatched to the nearest shopping center to buy highly sifted maize meals. And that is what they make do, making an all-starch meal. Begging the question once again, why is it that so many years after the attainment of political independence? Why is it that after so many years with universities that we have created in almost all countries dedicated to agriculture, we have not been able to conquer this problem of greening Africa and making Africa self-sufficient in the area of production of food, and specifically grain? I oftentimes, in my more unguarded and uncharitable moments, indict Africa that why is it that 50 years after independence on average, without being an opponent of globalization, why is it that it's still Monsanto and Syngenta that must produce maize seed for us? Why is it that over so many years, while being alive to the presence of Kenya Seed and Seedco, why is it that this has not been replicated in different parts of Africa? Why must we still swear by Monsanto and Syngenta as the standard gold in that area? Why is it that those of you who have had the advantage of exposure to innovation in the area of agriculture, why is it that your intervention has not made dramatic changes? And one is not simply saying that nothing has been done. One is asking the uncomfortable question, why Africa continues to punch below her weight in the area of agriculture, if we are to be specific. Why is it, one asks, that Africa does not produce enough wheat to feed her people, while our people love bread? Why is it that Africa does not produce enough sugar cane to satisfy her needs? Why is it that